Nation, to the Raider D podcast on this beautiful morning. Strap up those seatbelts because we're going to be taking a ride and a little bit of a journey down down the draft of 2024 on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to be talking about all of the needs that the Raiders need on the offensive side of the ball. We're going to be looking at the top draft prospects for each one of those positions, according to me, the Raider D. So let's strap in. Let's get rocking and rolling. Welcome, everybody that is watching it right now. Before we get going, first, we want to just talk about real quick a sponsor that we have. So as you guys know, that I make a lot of long form content, and for me it takes hours upon hours and upon hours to make those videos for you guys. One thing I don't have time to do is to make shorts, but I know a lot of people like shorts videos on TikTok, YouTube, X, and so on and so on. So I found an AI editor that I personally use. And you guys know I give you the Raider D guarantee that I will never promote a single product on this channel to the Raider Nation unless I truly believe in it and use it myself. So as I've been going through this journey as a YouTuber, I have found the AI editor that really makes it super simple for me to take these long form contents like the podcast and cut it up into short, interesting clips. And the great thing about this AI editor is it doesn't just randomly take out clips, but it literally analyzes according to the most up-to-date speech analysis of what's actually interesting and will go viral. So if you make any type of content, you guys have got to check this out because it is a definite game changer for anybody that is making content. So go ahead and check out the link down below. It is my secret AI editor. Won't be a secret for long because all of you are going to be loving it just like I do. So with that being said, let's start jumping in to the content today. And we're going to start off with running backs. Running backs is a situation that we don't know what's going to happen with Josh Jacobs. We do have a myriad of running backs on the team right now, but we really only have two potential starters, and that is Josh Jacobs if we bring him back. I'm going to assume that we do not bring him back. And so we're going to look at some running backs today, and I want to get your thoughts for it as well. And so go ahead and drop a comment and let me know what you guys think about this. But let's get into it and start looking at the running backs here. So on the top of my list, I have some really good dudes that, and let me just say this really quickly. So when it comes to running backs, the market is not what it used to be. Running backs used to often go in the first round. That doesn't happen quite as much as it used to. And this draft is not going to be any different. You're going to see first round caliber running backs that are going to fall into the second round, which is great for the Raiders because we really need to address some other things, particularly a franchise quarterback. But if we can't even get that, then we really need to address that right tackle position, which we're going to touch on in today's video. But that leaves first round caliber running backs, guys who can immediately fill the shoes of Josh Jacobs and help out Zamir White in that run game. So let's go over some of my favorites. Top of my list is the kid out of Notre Dame, Audric Estime. He's 5'11", 227 pounds, like a little bowling ball, just wrecking people. He won Player of the Year in New Jersey, and he's played for Notre Dame. His strengths, and he had quite a few of them, is if you were to design a running back out of clay, it might look a bit like Estime, who boasts a relative stubby and upper body with long, strong legs and lightning quick feet. I mean, this dude can get up and move. He is fortunate also to run behind one of the best offensive lines in college football, but make no mistake about it, this dude has great vision and great feet. For a guy his size with his weight, right? 5'11" is not super tall, but for a running back, that is pushing the taller limit there. And then obviously being over 220 pounds, he has some weight behind him. He really shows that rare breakaway burst. Further, if he were to be featured as a receiver, he does have reliable hands and the ability to get outside of his frame and catch those balls coming in. He's only 20 years old, so he's got a lot of football life ahead of him, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he does in the NFL. I have him projected in the top 50 picks. Now, the draft is one of those things that can be strange, and GMs make strange moves. But I would predict, if I were to try and narrow it down for Estime, that I would see him somewhere between pick 30 to pick 50, which in the second round, the Raiders have pick number 40. So that's really good for the Raiders. He could definitely fall into our laps 100%. Let me see. Oh, I just check something here real quick. Let's get those likes up, guys. Let's get those likes up. Let me see. Okay, so we are all right. I just had to check something. Just had to check something there real quick. Perfect. So we're doing good. We're doing good. Okay, let's jump back into this. So that's Estime. Now, some of the concerns with Estime is he's a little bit too early to get into the holes. Sometimes he's bouncing off the backs of his own linemen, and this can be an issue. So he needs to work on his patience and let the lanes open up for him. But once he does that, I think he's going to be one of those guys that you can definitely hand the ball off to 30 times a game, and he is going to get over 100 yards. He's going to be a fantastic running back in the NFL. He also could fall to the Raiders at pick number 44, which would be a great addition to the Raiders if we were to be able to pick him up. Now, we're going to move into Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright is one of those guys. He's 5'10", 210 pounds. So he's not an oversized guy, but he does have really good darting ability. He's very elusive, right? Think of like Isaiah Pacheco with the Chiefs. This dude can move. He doesn't give you a lot of options to tackle him. And he was behind a quarterback named Joe Milton III. So he wasn't on the best team. And yet he still was able to average 7.39 yards per carry, which led the FBS in all of the running backs. So with him, I say Jalen Wright is one of those dudes who has been able to be dynamic and be able to be very productive on a team that wasn't loaded with the most talent, especially didn't have the most talented quarterback, though a very intriguing quarterback, but not the most talented compared to other players. The fact that he's one of those slippery dudes, he can get in, slash through the lanes, and the lanes don't have to be very wide open for him to make plays, is very, very interesting indeed. And while his TD runs, and this is some of the concerns, while his TD runs in 2023 were highlight reel worthy, they were not as good as last season. For example, he had less carries in 2023 than he did in 2022 at only 137 carries. Now, this is a little bit concerning as to whether or not he'd be able to be a bell cow carrying the ball 30 times a game in an offense that's going to really be run game heavy. So a little concern there about how effective he would be and durable he would be long-term with the Raiders. But hey, you got Zamir White there. He's the big guy. He's the big back. He's the tough guy. You can make Zamir White the bell cow, and then you can slip in my guy, Jalen Wright, and he can be like that lightning and thunder type of situation that we would like to have. So a very good option. He is definitely going to be a second-round pick, especially coming out of Tennessee. So you could definitely see him available for us at pick number 44. He's also the type of running back, because he didn't get a whole lot of work and he's coming from the Volunteers, he could actually slip into the third round and still be available if we have not gone wide receiver yet. Now, one of the exciting prospects out there also is going to be a Trey Benson from Florida State. This dude is 6'1", 223 pounds. He is a Mississippi native. Began his He began his college career at Oregon, and he didn't see a lot of playing time there as a freshman in 2021, and so he elected to go to Florida State, where he has just dominated. This dude has 2,200 plus yards, all purpose, and just 349 touches in the past 2 seasons. So he's been super, super productive. He also has that big body type of guy that you want in today's modern NFL. He definitely has that NFL frame about him. He definitely sniffs out the running lanes. He's very good with his vision, so there's no issues there. And he can accelerate very quickly for a man of his size. It's very deceptive, so it gives the DBs and the linebackers a hard time judging what type of angle that they need to take to try and catch up with him. So some of the concerns with him is he is a one-speed runner. He's not a blazer. He can get caught from behind. But I'm telling you, this dude, once he gets out in that open space, you can guarantee he's getting at least 10 yards, right? At least 10 yards. He's hard to bring down, and he could definitely be a workhorse. He has a combination of the size, the speed, the power, and he is definitely NFL ready. This dude is a 2nd to 3rd round pick. Again, he's definitely most likely going to be there at pick 44 for the Raiders, but could also be there in the 70s. So, down to 3rd round, he could definitely be still available. So we don't have to rush on a guy like him. And look, there are a bunch of these guys that are coming out. They're all what used to be probably drafted in the 1st and early 2nd round. These guys are now going to be available to us in the 3rd round just because of the way that the NFL is now grading running backs, because we're such a pass-heavy offense style in the NFL today. So great production at great value for these dudes. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you haven't already done so, guys, you got to make sure that you are hitting that like button. Let's get this pumped out to as many people as possible. Support the Raider D podcast by hitting that like button, guys. Now we're going to move on to my next guy, and that's Marshawn Lloyd, Southern Cal. He's 5'9", 270 pounds, so he's a little bit on that shorter side. He also was another transfer guy, ended up, he was in South Carolina with the Gamecocks, and then he moved over to Southern Cal. This dude, he's very, very good. Marshawn Lloyd. First of all, we like anybody named Marshawn, and the first letter of his last name starts with an L. So pretty close to Marshawn Lynch. Would he be a Marshawn Lynch? No. Different type of a guy, a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, not as powerful. But he is an elusive type of dude. He did unfortunately have an ACL tear and when he was with the Gamecocks in 2020, but he has fully healed from that and has been very productive with USC in 2023, playing under Lincoln Riley and Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams, which makes you look like a star when you have a star quarterback. He enjoyed the best season of his college career, averaging an eye-popping 7.1 yards per carry and rushing for 820 yards and 9 touchdowns, and then is now declaring that he will join the NFL. Lloyd is a uniquely built back who looks like a tank but moves like a go-kart, and he possesses great stop-start quickness, very good at lateral agility. He's able to elude in tight spaces. He's also known to get downhill very, very quickly. He wasn't really a receiving back very much, only catching 34 passes over his career, 13 in the last season. But he does have pretty good hands because he caught every single pass that went to him. So, including a highlight reel against Nevada. So I will definitely say that he could improve in that. Again, Josh Jacobs was not the best when it comes to catching in his rookie year, but he has progressed and become a true pass-catching threat from a running back. Same thing here. This kid, give him more reps in the passing, and I believe that with as good as of his hands as they are, that he could be a serious contender there. He's a very determined runner, but he doesn't really wow you with the yards after contact. So could be a little bit disappointing for Raiders fans who have become very used to the Josh Jacobs stiff arming people in their face and running for another 10 yards, 20 yards, touchdowns. Same thing with Zamir White, a very physical, violent running back out there on the grass. This guy's not going to be that, right? He's not super good at contact yards. So that's one thing that he definitely needs to work on, but he's a very good dude. 3rd round pick, possibly 4th round. So he'd be a value pickup to bring into the silver and black. Then we're going to talk about Michigan's Blake Corum. Now, Blake Corum was the heart and soul pretty much of the offense, being very, very run heavy over there with Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines. Blake Corum is just one of those dudes at 5'8", 213 pounds, so not a big guy. He's like a little bowling pin just bouncing off of everything. He's very quick with his feet. He has fantastic line of scrimmage. He's able to get to that second level, squeeze through holes, cuts. He's very explosive and surging forward. He's a little bit shorter. This is going to limit his ability to become a pass catcher as a running back. So that's a bit of a concern with Blake Corum. Again, also with Blake Corum, he's not one of those dudes that's going to get big yards after contact. You're not going to see him stiff arming people to the ground or bulldozing through defenders. But he is very impressive and able to get out in open space and has those nice quick feet that you really want with a dynamic running back. Again, he's another 3rd round pickup value guy. He's very durable. He's been able to get through Big Ten competition. So I really like Blake Corum. He's one of those guys that could be a true asset to the silver and black and come in at a really nice value. Now we're going to move on to Oregon. Here's another guy, a little bit undersized, Bucky Irving. He's 5'10", 195 pounds. He is a really great all-around type of back. Not the biggest guy. He's also not going to knock over a bunch of defenders. And because of his size, he may not be the best as far as other than short dump offs to a running back, but he's not going to get out there in space and catch a bunch of balls and out jump a bunch of defenders. One thing about him is he has electric feet. I mean, this guy is like electricity. Zip, zap, zip, zap, zip, zap. He's very fun to watch. He's very quick. He can shake opponents very easily and just get up into that open field. So I really like him as a dynamic, electrifying player, somebody that you could put in behind Zamir White. Let Zamir White run the rock and really soften up that defense. And then you're going to hit him with the 1-2 punch and bring in Bucky Irving and really just hit those electrifying runs. Hopefully he can break one loose and take off for a 30, 40, 50, 60-yard touchdown run. That would be very, very fun to watch. He's very quick. He's lethal out there, especially if you give him like a screen pass or something like that. He can take it to the next level for sure. Again, a great value pick. Probably going to slip down to that 4th round and just be sitting there waiting to don the silver and black jersey and put on that Raiders cap. If you guys are loving this content so far, you got to hit that like button. Subscribe if you're brand new to the channel, because we here at the Raider D Podcast are bringing it to you. Commitment to excellence every single day. Moving on to pick number 7 on my list is a kid named Ray Davis out of Kentucky. Now, becoming out of Kentucky, he's not the most well-known kid, but he is 5'9", 220 pounds. So again, just another bowling ball out there, just wrecking people. His strengths are he's very powerful. He runs very aggressive. Think Marshawn Lynch style of running, barreling into defenders, knocking guys over. Very impressive. He has contact balance. He's able to hit defenders, stay on his feet. He's got nice little wiggle, and he's able to escape defenders very often. He can accelerate through the hole. He's very smooth, getting into that second level and seeing some green grass in front of him. He's one of those guys. He's not going to put popping numbers out there for you to ooh and ah over, but as far as a guy that's probably going to be available in the fourth round, he's one of those dudes that you could bring in and put him behind Zamir White, and he can really be a depth piece. He's not going to be probably a starter anytime soon for the Raiders if we were to pick him up. That bulk is probably going to go to Zamir, but he definitely gives you a fantastic backup piece to Zamir. Coming in at number 8 at a TCU, we have Imani Bailey. He's a redshirt junior. Bailey began his career over at Louisiana, transferred over to TCU, and has had a lot of great success with them. He has a lot of burst. It's like he strapped nitrous onto his back, and he just takes off. Very explosive. Would-be tacklers have a hard time getting a hold of him. He hits that second level. He hits it quick. He shows great vision. He attacks the holes very well. He rarely gets tackled by that first defender, so after contact yards should be an upside for him. He's a little bit undersized, but his undersizedness, if he can get to that second level, it's going to be difficult for defenders to catch him. Again, not super eye-popping numbers out there, but he did put up over 1,200 rushing yards in 2023. Another fourth-round guy I think is going to be a fantastic value. Now we're going to talk about my number 9 guy. And I know he's back in number 9, but he has, I think, one of the highest upsides. That is Braylon Allen. Wisconsin, 6'2", 245 pounds. This dude is a Derrick Henry lookalike. He is phenomenal freak athlete. His physically imposing back, he has the broad shoulders, tree trunks for thighs. He routinely bulldozers through defenders to create yards after contact. He has deceptive gait, very effective hesitation move to get would-be tacklers powering up, and then he just slips right by him. So I'm looking at this guy. I know that he's probably going to be available in the fourth round. That's where most of the experts have him going, but I'm telling you right now, he could easily he could easily get snatched off the board in the second or third round, even though he's put all the way back in the fourth by most of the experts. But one of the reasons why that he could fall down to the fourth is simply speed. He's not the fastest guy. He's a big guy, but he's not the fastest guy. It's deceptive speed, but he's not going to be out there running a 4.40, right? He's probably closer to like a 4.7. So that is one of those things where he can get caught from behind, and that could be a downside for him. But look for him to be one of those backs that comes into the NFL with that freak athletic strength and size to really make a name for himself. I think if the Raiders have him on the board, I would love to see him don the silver and black jersey just because of the potential upside. And the fact is, he literally could be available in the fourth round. This would be awesome. Wrapping up the running backs, we're gonna end this one with Jonathan Brooks. Now stay tuned because we got a lot more to go. We're gonna get all the way through the offensive needs that the Raiders, I believe, have and need to address. But Jonathan Brooks out of Texas is 6 feet tall, 207 pounds, so not overly sized, not a big, heavy guy. But one of the things is he's kind of like man, it's hard to put him in a situation. He's quick through the hole. He shows a different degree of burst than most other backs in his class at 200 pounds. He can outtrace defenders to the perimeter, dash out to that second level, throwing off would-be tacklers, forcing lots of flailing arms and tackle attempts that he can easily run through because he does have some power there. He keeps his legs driving, so I like to see that. He shows impressive balance out there when he's being contacted, and regaining his footing is phenomenal. He has tightrope the sidelines, so he's just really good with his feet. He's caught 25 passes in 2023, showing off soft hands while doing so. He's got impressive hand-eye coordination to pluck outside of his frame. Enters the NFL with just 266 career touches, should be just barely scratching the surface of his ability, and he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on his body. He does run a little bit tall, relatively long. He has narrow legs, so you're a little bit worried about the strength of his legs trying to push that pile forward, so that could be an issue. Look for him to be kind of used more in the realm of a receiving back for the silver and black. So that wraps up the running backs situation that we'll be looking at here for the Raiders. A lot of potential out there, a lot of potential value. We don't have to spend a first round draft pick. So guys, go ahead and hit me up and let me know what you guys think about that. Jeffrey, I see you in the comments, brother. Salute to you for joining us this morning, and everybody else that is here in the live podcast. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick little announcement here. Make sure, guys, that if you're new to the channel or you have not yet already signed up, that you send an email to us over at raiderdpodcast@gmail.com and request to get put on our newsletter, because our newsletter's first edition is going to be coming out next month. You guys do not want to miss it, because we're going to be putting all of this stuff in a nice, concise little, juicy little package with lots of stats and stuffs like that for you. So right here, just hit us up over on the email, raiderdpodcast@gmail.com, and we will get you on that newsletter. Moving on into our wide receivers, we're going to be looking at my favorite wide receivers. Now, I know some of these guys are going to be the big names that everybody's already heard of, but we're going to go through some guys that maybe you haven't heard of, and maybe I'm going to shock you at some of the positions that I take differently than the talking heads experts over at ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS Sports, etc., etc. So let's jump into it. Now, at number one, this may come as a bit of a surprise, but I have Malik Neighbors as my number one draft prospect at wide receiver for the Silver and Black, or any team really in that matter. I believe Malik Neighbors is a superstar in the making. He's not super tall. He is only 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. So he's a little bit undersized when it comes to his height. But there is absolutely no doubt that Malik Neighbors is one of those dudes who has just an electric athletic ability to him. He's just one of those athletes with the kind of start-stop quickness, instant acceleration to shake even the NFL's most gifted corners and DBs back there. He's an excellent route runner, bar none. He does not just rely on his athleticism, but his varying his releases, his gaits throughout his patterns. I mean, he's got DBs guessing. Is he going deep? Is he cutting short? Is he going left? Is he going right? They have no clue. Think Devontae Adams 2.0. This guy is going to be phenomenal. He has strong hands, catches everything that comes his way. He's a versatile receiver with experience inside and out. Very pass-heavy, up-tempo system over there at LSU with Heisman, Jaden Daniels. He showed true leadership on the sideline. He's going to be a great addition to the locker room. And guess what? He's only 20 years old, coming to the NFL. This dude is going to be a superstar for a long, long time. Now, downsides, concerns with Malik Neighbors. He's not at that elite height and bulk that you want to see, like a Megatron type of dude. But that's not really his role. Neither is really Devontae Adams, but he is yet still one of the best receivers in the NFL. What I want is a guy who can get open, and a guy, when you throw him the ball, he's going to come down with it no matter what. I think this would be a fantastic pickup for the Silver and Black. Now, Coming in at number 2, and this is why I said, some people are going to say, maybe I'm crazy, but that is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. I know he's the consensus best wide receiver out there, but if you look at the numbers, Malik Nabers has better numbers. Now, he comes in out of Ohio State. He's 6'3", 205 pounds. So he has the height that you want in a wide receiver. He also has the pedigree with his dad being Marvin Harrison Sr., one of a Hall of Famer type wide receiver. So he's got great genetics. It's not really hyperbolic to say that he is quite literally born to play football because, his dad, but you could probably say that about this kid. He engenders all of the greatness, the great attributes that his dad had. And so he's going to be one of those dudes who's going to be a star in the NFL. One, because of his nameplate, and two, his genetic ability to just be a rare freak athlete out there on the field. He has rare acceleration, agility. He, including a late burst to pull away in that open field. So he can lull a DB to sleep thinking, oh, I'm keeping up with you, and then just take off on him. He has excellent balance, burst out of his breaks, and he can really get clearance away from that tight man coverage. Polished route runner, spatial awareness to understand where to settle against zone coverage. Tracks the deep ball like a center fielder out there playing baseball. Shows the ability to adjust and really just go up and get the ball. He snatches them up, secures them. He's got fluid motion. He is an exciting guy. The only reason why I have him at number 2 really is because the fact that Malik Nabers does not have the physical attributes that he does, he has better numbers. And so that tells me a lot about Malik Nabers' hustle and drive, and not just relying on his athleticism or his nameplate. So at the same time, you cannot deny, if you go with a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Malik Nabers, Raiders fans are going to be excited with either one of these guys. So it's a very close 1-2. I could say almost a tie for number 1. Either way, you are going to get a fantastic guy. Now, one of the concerns with him is he does have 6 drops in 2023. So he needs to work on that, making sure that he's coming down with that ball. He is lacking a little bit of that bulk and power to break tackles. Again, most receivers don't really do that anymore. There aren't really the Megatrons out there. But definitely would be an upgrade as a true number 2 wide receiver to the Silver and Black if the Raiders were to grab either one of these guys. Now, both of these guys are going to be gone probably within the first 8 picks of the 2024 NFL draft. So the only way we would get either one of those guys is to move up if we were so inclined to do so, to grab a wide receiver. Highly unlikely that either will be available later down the road. Now, moving on to my number 3 guy. And again, this guy could be number 2, right? Rome Odunze is like a Marvin Harrison Jr. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. So he has that wide receiver build that you want in the NFL. And he is phenomenal. Obviously, he had Michael Penix Jr. as his quarterback, and that guy likes to throw the ball a lot, and so did the Washington team. With that being said, he's prototypical build. He's got the height, he's got the broad shoulders, the long arms. He can bully cornerbacks with his sheer size alone. Terrific body control, strength, concentration. Wins contested catches, routinely delivering in critical situations. He's strong, reliable hands, pluck and tuck outside of his frame. Odunze understands how to shield defenders like a basketball player. He's a gliding runner. He's got a fantastic stride. He can get separation. He can really zip. He's got just impressive toughness, playing through broken ribs in 2023. And he leads the nation in receiving yards. So again, loaded wide receiver class coming out in 2024. I think any one of these three guys could literally be the first one picked off. Obviously, we know Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to be the first receiver off the board simply because of his nameplate. But you couldn't go wrong with Rome Odunze either. He is very high up on my board, and I would absolutely love to see whoever our quarterback of the future is going to be, having a guy like him sitting there at true number 2 and the replacement for true number 1 when Davante Adams starts hitting that 33 years, 34 years of age type situation where he's not as dynamic as he is today. So it'd be a fantastic guy for us to have. And we also know that Tom Telesco likes to draft really good receivers. He's done a good job with that. Now, number 4. Again, we're going back to LSU, guys. Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, of course we're going back to LSU, and that is going to be one Brian Thomas Jr. 6'4", 205 pounds. Now, he's a little bit on the skinny side. He can put on some weight, but what he does have is length at 6'4", long arms, just a wingspan that's going to be phenomenal out there. He is exceptional in his prep. He just works hard. He has a great reputation. Exceptional athlete. He turned scholarship offers down for basketball so that he could focus on football. So that tells you right there that he has a lot of agility. Any basketball player that plays wide receiver, typically they excel because you have to have a lot of body control, agility, coordination, all of that to play really high level basketball. And the fact that he's a wide receiver tells you why this guy is so dominant. And the only reason why he's all the way down at number 4 is because he played on a team with a guy named Malik Neighbors, right? But he is every bit as good as Malik, and he's 4 inches taller. So I think in the NFL, he has that prototypical wide receiver body and frame that you really want to see. Again, remarkable combination of height, quickness, agility, gliding gait, deceptively long speed. He's got natural hands as a catcher. He tracks the ball in the air very well, and he has those late hands to the ball, kind of like Davante Adams, which really puts the DBs in a hard position to try and cover him. Impressive timing and body control. Absolutely off the charts. He seems to just barely be scratching the surface of his potential. He's only played organized football since his sophomore year of high school. So the ceiling for this kid is off the charts. Brian Thomas Jr., remember that name. If he were to fall, and I think of all these quarterbacks so far that are wide receivers that we've talked about so far, if he's to fall to pick number 13, it's going to be most likely him because you have some bigger names ahead of him. But I'm telling you right now, if the Raiders were to pick him up at number 13, I would not be mad at that pick whatsoever. We can address the offensive line in round 2 at that point and another running back at round 3, and we would have a dynamic wide receiver core. Now, that would probably mean that we made a trade for a Justin Fields or brought in a Kirk Cousins or Baker Mayfield, yada, yada, yada. But whoever the quarterback would be super pleased to have a Brian Thomas Jr. on one side, Davante Adams on the other side, Jacoby Myers in the slot, and Trey Tucker running those deep routes. You could not go wrong with a wide receiver core like that. One of his concerns is he saw a lot of single coverage due to opponents focusing much of their attention on his teammates, Malik Neighbors. He's tall and a bit lean. He needs to put on a little bit of weight. He lacks a fit on special teams and is relatively inexperienced overall compared to some other of the receivers that are coming out. But again, his ceiling is off the charts with his size and grade. And most of the experts have him being picked somewhere between 15 and 20. So definitely could be an option for the Raiders at pick number 13. Now, we're going to jump on back down to Florida State and one Keon Coleman, who is 6'3", 215 pounds. Now, this kid has an imposing frame, He's got the broad shoulders, the long limbs, very developed muscular. He is a bully with the ball in the air. Like he's like the high school bully that runs around picking on all the short dudes in the hallway, right? He just gets after those DBs and makes them uncomfortable and just makes sure that he comes down with the ball because he's just a strong wide receiver. He has very good hands. He plucks the ball outside his frame and he's able to bring it in, and he's very good at absorbing big hits and not letting go of that ball. He's very aggressive after the catch. He shows the lateral agility to elude tacklers and leg drive to run through arm tackles, as well as good vision. Gonna be a fantastic wide receiver on any team that drafts him during the 2024 draft and bring them to his team. So would love to see him come to the Raiders. He is a first to second round grade, so he could be available at a pick number 44 for the Silver and Black. I would say that relatively sluggish off the line is a concern for him. Occasionally gets a bit too aggressive with the ball in the air, pushing off to create that late separation, which in the NFL is going to draw a lot of flags. So he needs to learn how to use his body a little bit better instead of trying to push off. But he is much bigger than most NFL teams prefer as a punt returner. And so trying to put him on those special teams could be an issue as well. But, I mean, if you're drafting a guy that high, I'm probably not going to put him out there as a punt returner anyway. I would rather see him be that true number 2, and let's just have a guy dedicated to running back those punts and kickoffs. Moving down to number 6, and this is, again, one of those guys that could be easily number 4, 5, or 6, just because this wide receiver core is just so talented in 2024. And that is going to be Troy Franklin. Again, another kid that's really underrated, but could easily be a first-round draft pick, could be first top 10 draft pick, right? Troy Franklin out of Oregon is 6'2", 187 pounds. Now, his downside clearly is his weight. He needs to put on more muscle because he is very slender, and that could be an issue in the NFL. However, this dude is one of the best vertical threats coming out of college. He explodes off the line, and he just takes off like a drag racer. He is more, however, than just a speed threat because he definitely shows the ability to sink in his hips and explode out of his brakes, which we absolutely love to see. He creates easy space for QBs to throw the ball. I think that this is the type of guy who is kind of like a Trey Tucker, only taller, right? Because we know Trey's a little bit short. But if you were to have two speed demons out there at the same time, that is going to wreak havoc for any defense to try and keep up with. Imagine this guy next to Trey Tucker. He's running the true number 2, and Trey Tucker's running some type of an in or a post, or both of them are running a go or a deep post. It is going to cause havoc for any defense trying to keep up with either one of these guys. So Troy Franklin added to the Silver and Black would be a true upgrade over what we have right now. And I would love to see it. He has great vision to set up blocks, and he can definitely run after the catch. Again, I would like to see probably him put on another 15 pounds just to be able to absorb those big NFL hits, because in the NFL, the guys are a little bit heavier, a little bit stronger, and they can hit a little bit harder. However, I'll also say that the NFL, I think, in my opinion, protects the wide receivers a bit better than they do in college, and therefore, I would say if he's been durable through college, he'll probably be okay in the NFL. The only issue that I will say about him is contested catches is one thing that he definitely needs to work on. He struggles a little bit in contested catches, But other than that, I think he's going to be a fantastic big play, deep threat, super fast, speedy guy who can just get out there, get space, and make easy throws for your quarterbacks. This guy could go in the first round. He could go in the second round. He is one of those guys who could be available at pick 44 and most likely will be available at pick 13 for the silver and black. Another guy I want to talk about, he's Adonai Mitchell coming out of Texas. This is a tall guy, 6'4", 196 pounds. So he's not overly heavy. He's still on that slender side at 196 pounds. A quick guy. He's very coordinated, composed athlete. He rolls off of the line with a deceptive gliding gait. He has long arms, strong hands, snatches the ball away from defenders. He can leap, jump. He's very impressive body control. Hang time to win up those jump ball situations is fantastic. Think, like a basketball player in NBA, it just feels like he's floating up there in the air. So very fun to watch. His game tape is super impressive. His route running is really, really good. And again, he just has that flexibility for a guy his size that he probably shouldn't have, but he does. The only issue again with him, he's a very lean frame, not the most physical guy. He's not going to break a whole bunch of tackles. He has no special teams experience whatsoever, so he's going to be a liability there if you're trying to add to special teams. And he did miss 9 games with an ankle injury at Georgia. So again, he's going to be a second round guy, probably somewhere mid second round. So would most likely be available for the silver and black coming at pick 44. A very interesting prospect. I think he'll have a good NFL career. Not as exciting as some of the other guys, but definitely up there. Now we're moving a little bit deeper into the ranks of the wide receivers. Now, again, all of these guys are probably now we're looking at definite second round guys, not going to be in the first round, but these are guys that could definitely improve your team, right? And some of these guys, maybe you're going to pick them up in second round, but you're not going to put them out there as a starter right away. Maybe these are guys that you're going to develop. And here's one guy that I'm going to talk about. He's out of Michigan. And the reason why he's so low is because, well, Michigan just didn't throw the ball a whole lot. They were a run-first team and run most, actually. Roman Wilson, 6 foot tall, 192 pounds. So a bit on that shorter side as well as slender. He has amazing speed, though. He has been clocked at a 4.37 second 40-yard dash in 2019. Blazing fast dude. Think Trey Tucker type of guy out there on the field. Very, very similar body type and build. So I'm not going to get super into him because honestly, I don't think there's any way that the Raiders draft a guy at 6 foot tall and 192 pounds simply because he's fast, because we already have a wide receiver like that. But I am going to say this, for anybody looking to replicate the Trey Tucker type of guy, this is a kid that is definitely going to add value to any team in the NFL, even if it's just returning kicks, simply because of his speed, and he has good timing, body control. He could definitely be a special teams guy that is going to just be explosive out there returning punts. And he had a great Senior Bowl as well. So no doubt he's going to be a really good player in the NFL. At what level and at what depth is he going to be on the depth chart remains to be seen, but he's a solid second round, third round type of guy. Now, here's another guy that I'm a little bit higher on than some others and maybe a little bit lower on than some others, but I just love watching this kid play. When I watch his game tape and his highlights coming out of USC, I'm talking about Brendan Rice. Now, here's another guy. We already talked about Marvin Harrison's son, Marvin Harrison Jr., but here we also have another son of a Hall of Famer, and that's Jerry Rice's son, Brendan Rice, 6'2", 212 pounds. So he's very similar to his dad's size and weight when he was in the NFL, and he really has a lot of that ethics, work ethic, and hustle and drive to get out there. He doesn't have the eye-popping numbers as some of the guys that are going to go in the top 10. But you cannot say that he didn't have a good career. Now, obviously, he was playing with Caleb Williams, so, he made some pretty impressive catches. He's an imposing receiver at 6'2", so he's going to be taller than most of the DBs covering him. He's got a well-built frame, very long arms. He has a 78 and 3/8 inch wingspan. So this dude is long. Like, he's longer than what his height would actually show. He plays very fast. He's got choppy footwork, changes gears very well, leaves opponents struggling to keep up. He's a very instinctive runner. He recognizes and adjusts his route when the QB is in trouble, which he had a mobile QB, so he had to do this a lot. So if we have a guy like a Justin Fields, if that was the play that the Raiders are going to make, this kid would be great because he's already spent his college career helping out a quarterback who's getting outside the pocket. So this could be a definite winner for the Raiders. And again, Jerry Rice played for the Raiders at the end of his career. Once a Raider, always a Raider. Why not bring his son to the silver and black and get him inside the Death Star? He's also very, very physical after the catch. He has a great stiff arm. Love it. He is one of those dudes who has a limitation on his lateral elusiveness. He needs to work on that. His dad was very good at it. He's more smooth than Sutton with his movement, and he has not produced any like eye-popping 40-yard dash times, so he's not the speediest guy out there. But again, we got Trey Tucker for that. So if you bring in a Brendan Rice, he's going to be one of those dudes. If he lives up to, let's say, 75% of what his dad is, he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler. So love to have him on the silver and black. And so that's going to wrap up and I know that's only 9, but I'm not going to go with the 10th one because I don't think it's a reality for the Raiders. So that's going to wrap up the wide receivers for right now. Let me drop this on here. If you are loving this content, this is the Raider D podcast. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and make sure that you hit that subscribe button. We also got Hot Beavers, my boy in here. Salute to you, Hot Beavers. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, brother. Make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and consider becoming a member of the Raider D family by hitting that join button and buying the Raider D a cup of coffee, which I just finished. And you see that? Call me hubby. That's what my wife calls me. All right, guys. So let's bump over into the O-line. And let me pull. All right. So now on the O-line, I'm going to go through my top 5 offensive linemen. And I know some of these guys I've talked about quite a bit, and a couple that I haven't really talked about at all. So I figured today we would go over just a few of these guys and see what your thoughts are on them. So make sure that you're hitting down in the comments and let me know. Do you agree? Disagree? Who did I leave off of the list? I'm always willing to I'm always willing to learn more and more every day. So if I've missed somebody, hey, hit me up and say, Raider D, you forgot about so-and-so, and I will drop a video possibly on that player. Let's start out with Mr. Joe Alt out of Notre Dame. Now, everybody has probably heard of Joe Alt by this time. He is a phenomenal tackle, left tackle predominantly, and he is one of those dudes. He's at 6'8", so he's an absolute monster. He has that size that you want for an offensive tackle. He's been better this year using his size and his length to his advantage. So you definitely like to see the progression tree continuing to go up for a guy who is probably going to end up being the first left tackle off the board. He is a top 10 prospect. I absolutely love the way that he is able to use his own leverage and keep those defenders at bay, protecting his quarterback's blind side. So a very, very good prospect. Unlikely that the Raiders would get him at 13. Like I said, he's going to be off the board somewhere between, I would say, pick 3 and pick 10. Moving on to number 2, and that is Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. Another guy, I mean, him and Joe Alt, this is like, a 1 and a 2. It could go the other way. You could have Fashanu going first off the board, Alt going second, because both of these guys are true left tackles. They're absolutely phenomenal. If you're looking at Fashanu and you're thinking, who should I kind of look at him as? Look at Tyron Smith with the Cowboys, and that's what you're going to get with a Fashanu. He is going to be a Pro Bowler. He is a big-time left tackle. Anybody that's going to pick him up is going to have a great lockdown tackle for a good 10-plus years, as long as they can afford him after his rookie contract comes up and he requests to be the highest paid tackle in the NFL, which he probably will, because he's going to be a Pro Bowler probably every single year, or in the running for one if he stays healthy. So a big guy that could possibly end up at pick number 13 for the Raiders. And if the Raiders were to have him at pick 13, it's a no-brainer. You grab him. Yes, I understand. We don't need a left tackle. We got Colton Miller. What are you talking about, Raider D? Well, because I believe between him and Joe Alt, I think Fashanu is the one most likely that you can move over to right tackle. And if Colton Miller goes down, it's an easy switch for him to come back to left tackle. I think he would be more versatile in this realm than Joe Alt would. So that's why I would say he would be a good pickup. And it's possible, not saying likely, but possible, that he could end up at pick number 13. Again, this is if the Raiders do not move up to get a Jaden Daniels or a Caleb Williams, or maybe even a Drake May, who I'm not super big on. But we'll get to that because we haven't got to the quarterbacks yet, but that's coming up next. So make sure that you stay tuned because we're going to get into the quarterbacks here in just a bit. Now, more likely scenario at pick 13 for the Silver and Black is going to be Talisi Fuaga out of Oregon State. Now, his draft status is kind of moved up a little bit, so he might be off of the board before 13, but I do believe that he will probably be there at pick 13. Fuaga is a true mauler. Fuaga is a violent player. He loves the run game, and this is one of the issues that we had last year is we had some pretty decent, not off the charts, but we had pretty decent pass blocking. Also because we did max coverage quite a bit of time where our tight end is staying in, running back is staying in pass protection. What we need is a guy that can get out there on an island and do both pass protection and really handle that run game. We want to see our running backs, whether it's a Josh Jacobs coming back on a team-friendly deal or it's Zamir White's time to take over as RB1, and then we draft one of these studs that we talked about earlier in the video. We need a guy who's going to get out there and lay out linebackers and lay out DBs. We need a guy who likes to do the run game offense, and Talisi Fuaga is exactly that. He just looks like a Raider. When you watch this guy play, when you look at his pictures, you think, yeah, there's basically two teams that he would fit in with like a glove, and that's the Raiders and the Steelers. So let's hope that he's wearing the silver and black and not the black and gold. Talisi Fuaga, I think personally for what the Raiders need, he's number 1 on my board, but talent-wise, he's number 3. Moving on to J.C. Latham out of Alabama. We know Alabama produces some pretty darn good linemen, and J.C. Latham is absolutely no exception. He is a massive man, supersized offensive tackle, 6'6", 360 pounds, but he moves much, much quicker than a player of his size realistically should. He has very consistent hand placement. He is physically gifted, and he's good at both run and pass protection. Really like J.C. Latham. He's probably going to go somewhere between pick 13 and pick 20. Now, moving to my 5th guy, and that's Amarius Mims out of Georgia. Georgia also produces quite a bit of talented offensive linemen, and Amarius Mims, again, is no difference. He doesn't get all of the big hype that is going on right now, but I think realistically, other than Fashanu and Joe Alt, any of these last three guys are interchangeable. I think any of these guys could go before the others. Really, it's just a toss-up. But we're going to say Amarius Mims is fifth on the board. He is one of those dudes. They just don't make a whole lot of guys like him, right? He's got a massive frame. He's very athletic. He's got great flexibility. He's able to just flatten out defenders. He's good in the run game. He's good in pass protection. Doesn't get all the hype as a Joe Alt or a Fashanu, but Amarius Mims out of Georgia is going to be one of those anchors on your offensive line for years to come. Really love him. He's definitely going to be available, in my opinion, for the Raiders at pick 13. And if he's on the board, the Raiders have to take a very serious look at Amarius Mims. Now, I know what you guys have all been waiting for. Raider D, when are you going to talk about the quarterbacks? Because that's all anybody cares about. Quarterback, 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 because we only have one quarterback on the team. Well, technically we have Hoyer, but Hoyer will never be a starter for the Raiders unless like catastrophe happens, right? So when are you going to talk about Raiders? Well, I'm going to talk about Raiders right after I talk about one quick little thing, and that is the link is going to be down in the description, guys. If you're joining me when I first started, I talked about this earlier. I made a guarantee when I started this channel that Raider Nation and football fans alike, or if you're just here watching this because you're bored on a Saturday morning, I will never have any sponsor on this channel that I do not personally believe in and use on a daily basis. Whether it's some health supplements, whether it's gear, whether it's any type of subscription services, anything like that. If I won't use it myself, I won't promote it. But I'm telling you right now, guys, I make videos. And if you guys have watched my videos, like my Khalil Mack video, which is my best performing so far, that video itself took me 16 hours to edit that video and put it together, and it's only 5 minutes long. That's the tedious nature of what it takes to edit really high quality videos. Now, with that being said, it would drive me insane if I were to then take the best parts out of that and make shorts videos, because that would be probably another 10 hours of additional editing. But I have a secret weapon, and I've admitted this. I don't actually edit my shorts myself. I found an app that I absolutely love and I use on a daily basis. It is my secret weapon. It has smart speech technology, and that smart speech technology analyzes my videos, even these long podcasts, and it takes the most interesting things out of that video, and then it cuts it into a new video, including all of the pop-up text, graphics, all types of cool stuff that you can actually customize in there. And dude, it only takes me seconds to hit the generate button. A couple minutes later, I'm popped out with 10 individual shorts videos that I can throw on the shorts timeline. I can throw them on TikTok. I can throw them on X. I can throw them on any of the other social media platforms. So I absolutely love it. It is my secret weapon, and I'm not going to tell you the name of it because, like my daddy always told me, if you really want to appreciate something, you got to put in a little bit of work for it. So go down into the description below, hit my secret weapon link, and go find out for yourself, and you can thank me later. Now, with that being said, also make sure that you like this video and make sure that you are joining. Become a member of the Raider D family. It's a couple bucks a month, and there's going to be all kinds of cool benefits coming down the road. Also, there's different levels. If you want to join the silver level, like my boy D Menace 4200, like my boy Jeffrey, Hot Beavers, my boy Tech, and a whole bunch of others, go ahead and join up with the Raider D podcast. And one more thing before we move on to the quarterbacks. And I know you guys are like, come on, Raider D, just hurry up and get to the quarterbacks already. What is wrong with you? As you can see in the scrolling title below, we have a free newsletter for any silver and black lovers. Just send us an email at raiderdpodcast@gmail.com and get signed up for the newsletter. First edition is going to be coming out here shortly. We're going to be talking about all of the free agency, and we'll also follow that up with, once the free agency is wrapped up, with all of the trades, news, signings, etc., for all of you to enjoy, as I do, because I enjoy writing about that stuff, because it's a lot of fun delving into these players' statistics and backgrounds. Now, we are going to talk about QBs, all of our favorite subject here on the Raider D podcast, because if you don't have a QB, if you don't have a face of the franchise to take over a game and dominate your competition, it's going to be very difficult for you to ever win a Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying that AOC cannot be that guy, but you have to hedge your bets. After all, we are in Las Vegas. So, with that being said, we're going to go over the top QBs in the 2024 NFL Draft and what I personally think about them and how they would fit with Silver and Black or any other team for that matter. Now, listen, we got to start out with the consensus number one, and that is Caleb Williams, a guy that I've talked about quite a bit with the Raiders. And with the rumors coming out that the Raiders are very interested in possibly trading for Justin Fields from Chicago and bringing him in, this would be a much cheaper option, probably only cost us a second-round pick to get him, or going all in and getting to that number one pick, swinging for the fences, hitting that home run, selling the farm to do it, because it would most likely cost 3 firsts and 3 seconds to go from 13 to number one. But if you go all the way up there to number one, if we make that trade with the Chicago Bears, and I believe that if that trade were to happen, it would happen right as soon as trades are available to be made on the 13th of this coming month, that way you can take care of the free agency, knowing that you got that number one pick secured. So we're going to know pretty soon what the plans for the Silver and Black are. If we move to number one, as much as I have concerns about Caleb Williams' mental status and the drama that comes along with his family being a little too involved with his negotiations moving forward into football, into the NFL, I would have to still say, though, you got to take a very serious consideration of Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, 2022 Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. Now, we know that he didn't have the same production level at 2023. It seemed like there was a little bit of a regression with him. However, even in 2023, with that little regression, he was still one of the most electrifying quarterbacks to watch in all of college football. Williams began his career, actually, a lot of people don't know this. He began in Oklahoma, similar to Spencer Rattler. And he then moved on to USC. Now, one of the things about him is this guy is a triple threat quarterback. He's not a dual threat quarterback. He's a triple threat quarterback. This dude can take off running. He can scramble. He can throw. And he's just a magician out there throwing off platform in ways that you would think this is definitely going to be an interception when you see him release the ball. There's no way that he can even see where the receiver is. Like, he's almost got his back turned. He's phenomenal to watch, and yet he's able to do it. And this is what everybody keeps calling him, Patrick Mahomes 2.0. He is the next Patrick Mahomes because he is a magician on the field. He has great pocket awareness. He's so slippery that defensive ends just have to be cursing his name every single time they have to play him. And let's be honest, Kyler Murray is a very similar build type to him. But I would say the Caleb Williams arm talent and ability is superior to Kyler Murray. At coming in out of college right now, I would take Caleb Williams over Kyler Murray. Now, I wouldn't take Caleb Williams over the next guy I'm going to talk about, but I do have to put Caleb Williams at number 1 on my list simply because there is no denying that Caleb Williams is one of those dudes who, if his mentality can mature a bit, he's going to be a superstar in the NFL. There's no denying it. He's not my number 1 choice, but he is the consensus number 1 choice, and that's why we're going to talk about him first. He's a true gunslinger of the ball. In fact, one of the things that you got to love about him is he is one of those guys, despite the fact that he could just take off running, he's always thinking pass first and using his legs to set up these crazy passes to like a Brendan Rice that we talked about earlier. That's one of the things that I'm really high on with him. I'm actually higher on with him than the next guy that I'm going to talk about who has a little bit of an issue with this. Caleb Williams does not. Caleb Williams, like Patrick Mahomes, he is using his legs to extend the play in order to throw the ball 20, 30 yards down the field and pick up those big plays. So that's one of the things I really like about him that I don't like over one of the other guys who I still think has a higher up ceiling than possibly Caleb Williams, but it's a close tie. Now, with all of the flaws that Caleb Williams has, my question, why Williams isn't a candidate to be one of the last quarterbacks on this list rather than the first. The reason simply is, despite his flaws that he has of sometimes getting himself into trouble, and then the character issues, and then the parental interference issues, simply is because Caleb Williams is the most dynamic, all-around, triple threat type of a quarterback that the NFL so much desires at this point and juncture in NFL history. So for that, I'm going to say Caleb Williams is the number 1 guy off of the board. Now, I'm going to be a little controversial here, but for all the silver and black fans, and of course, all of my subscribers and supporters, you guys already know this, so it's not going to be a surprise to you. And that is number 2 is going to be Jaden Daniels and not one Drake May. The reason why is Jaden Daniels, 6'4", 210 pounds. And yes, I understand that there are people who say he's 196 pounds. We will know that when he does the combine for sure, what his actual weight is now. But it is, most reports have him at 210. And I think that's probably the one downside with him is he's a bit skinny. However, in 5 years in college, he's had no major injuries despite being even skinnier earlier in his college career. He's a dynamic dual threat signal caller, started his career in Arizona State, ended up over in LSU for his last 2 seasons, culminating in a 2023 Heisman Trophy going home with him, because with the regression a little bit with Caleb Williams, there was really nobody that stood out like Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels in 2023 proved to the world that he was the most dynamic dual threat quarterback on the field, and for good reason, in 2023. Now, if you go back to 2022, it wasn't even a close call. It was Caleb Williams all day. But 2023 was the year for Jaden Daniels to shine, and shine he did. He really exploded in this last season. He has 40 touchdowns through the air. He has 50 touchdowns total in 2023. 40 of them were through the air and only 4 interceptions. Phenomenal. And here's the downside. People say that he's a run-first quarterback. Well, here's the deal. You don't throw 40 touchdowns in a season and be a run-first quarterback. That's just not the case with him. He is a throw-first quarterback. The situation with Jaden Daniels is he is a throw-first quarterback as long as his first or second read are open, but he doesn't have the patience to sit in the pocket if those 2 reads are not open, and that's when he takes off. So One of the issues of why I say Caleb Williams is a triple threat quarterback is because he's the type of guy that can scramble and extend the play rather than just run. But he can also just take off and running and get the first down as well. Whereas Jaden Daniels doesn't use his scramble ability near as much as Caleb Williams, and this really just makes him a dual threat rather than more of a triple threat, right? And so with that being said, I would like to see Jaden Daniels use that speed and quick feet to become more of a triple threat quarterback, where he has the option to run for the first down or the option to scramble and throw the ball, or sit in the pocket and throw the ball, which he's really, really good at. Once he's able to get that part of his game elevated, look out. I mean, this dude is a scary nightmare quarterback for any defense, because how do you defend him? If you don't spy on him like a Caleb Williams, he can simply just take off and pick up easy first down after easy first down. If you do spy him, then you're leaving wide receivers open over the middle for them to get in wide open space, and he can hit them with pinpoint accuracy. He also has a fantastic deep ball, so if we have speedy Trey Tucker out there running those deep routes, best believe Jaden Daniels is going to drop a dime right in the bucket, and it's going to be easy touchdown after touchdown. So with that, I'm going to put Jaden Daniels at number 2 coming off the board, which I know everybody has Drake Daniels going at number 2, but his stock has definitely dropped in recent weeks from Jaden Daniels, because Jaden Daniels, the more people look at him, the more people are like, yeah, he's more of a dynamic player, right? He's more dynamic. He has a higher upside than a Drake May. Now, with that being said, I'm going to put Drake May at number 3 off of the board. And I think you have to, even though I'm not as high on Drake May as other people are, you do have to recognize the fact that he has that NFL build, right? He's 6'4", he's 230 pounds. He's like a Josh Allen. He does have some feet. He does have some scramble ability. But I'm going to say he's nowhere near the dynamic player that a Caleb Williams or a Jaden Daniels is. This guy could easily become an Aaron Darnold in the NFL. But he could also easily become a Josh Allen in the NFL. He could be a Justin Herbert, right? So with that being said, he has a high upside, but he's a little bit more of a risk at being a bust, simply because he does not have the athleticism that the 2 players I believe will go ahead of him have. Williams is a very accurate quarterback in this class. He flashes similar precision with defenders barreling down on him, so he's good under the pressure. He is a dynamic athlete for his size. He has rushed for over 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns while at USC. That is nothing to shake a stick at. One of the issues with him is his poise under pressure. There are times where he falls into the same trap and reverts to hero ball, attempting to make jaw-dropping play rather than throw the ball out of bounds, even if he takes a sack or ends up throwing a pick. So issues with him is probably going to be his decision-making when he's under pressure, and because of that, everybody in the NFL is going to know it, and they are going to go after him and put on a lot of pressure. So expect pressure on a guy like him for sure. And also because they're not having to contain like they're going to have to do with Caleb Williams or a Jaden Daniels. The fact that they're going to be able to just get in and just go pressure, that's going to be an issue for him. And like I said, that's why he could end up like an Aaron Darnold and just be a bust in the NFL, or even like a Mac Jones type of player. Now, we got the big 3 off of the board. And here's where the controversy really starts to come in. And that is, who do I have going at number 4? Because everybody is all over the place when it comes to picks 4, 5, 6, even 7. I'm going to say at pick number 4, It's a bit of a toss-up. And I've gone back and forth over this, but I'm going to simply say that I'm going to drop number 4's name is going to be Michael Penix Jr., right? No, I've gone back and forth over this. I'm going to give it to Michael Penix Jr. because I think day one, Penix is NFL ready. He can make every single throw on the board. He has 6 years of college experience, so he's not a guy that's coming into the NFL and just glazed over eyes and the speed of the game's too much for him. He's played at the highest level. He played in the championship. Yes, we know he lost the championship, and that's because Michigan just had a phenomenal defense that took him out of his game. But the fact that he went from a smaller school like Washington and took that team with his arm all the way to a national championship against a team coached by Jim Harbaugh and a superior defense, and it was a somewhat competitive game, I'm going to have to say Michael Penix Jr. is my pick at number 4. Now, a couple of downsides I don't like about Penix. One is his injury history back in Indiana. However, his last 2 years over at Washington, he was injury-free, and it appears as though his injuries from the past are just that. They are in the past. With that being said, he's also a left-handed quarterback, and this presents a challenge to your tackles and your offensive line and how they're going to defend your quarterback, because the blind side is now on the other side. So that's an issue. But NFL teams have been able to make this work in the past, and I'm pretty sure that we would be able to figure it out if Michael Penix Jr. were to land with the Raiders. And I believe Michael Penix Jr. will be available at pick 13. One of the things that I really like about Michael Penix Jr., well, Michael Penix Jr., he has a very strong arm, and he has a very accurate arm, and he can make all of those big pro-level throws. One of the things that I don't like about him is he doesn't use his athleticism very much. He doesn't get out of the pocket a whole lot. He doesn't do a whole lot of scrambling, and he also doesn't run a whole lot for first downs. So I would like to see him use his athleticism because he's no slouch back there in the pocket. He can scramble and he can run at a much greater extent than, for example, Aiden O'Connell is able to do. He's a better athlete. He just doesn't use it very much. He relies mostly on being a pocket quarterback. In the NFL, he's not going to have that superior offensive line that he had in Washington. Everybody in the NFL has a top-tier defense, or just thereabout. And so he's going to get pressure, and he's going to have to learn how to move out of the pocket, scramble, and make time so that he can get receivers open and throw them the ball in the scramble drill. That's the only really downsides that I see to him. I think everything else, Michael Penix Jr. is going to have a great career in the NFL. He's going to be a starter in the NFL for years and years to come. Now, moving on down to my number 5 pick. And this one was a bit of a toss-up, but I'm going to go with Bo Nix out of Oregon. 6'2", 218 pounds. Probably the most accurate quarterback in college football. Again, a guy with 6 years of experience, threw a ton of touchdowns. He's a mobile quarterback. He can get out of the pocket. He can scramble drill. He can do all of the intangibles that you're looking for in the modern NFL. One of the issues that I have with him is that he just didn't throw the deep ball, right? He started to in 2023 a little bit more than he did in 2022, but his average pass is under 7 yards. And this is a concern in the NFL. Now, I get it. That's the type of offense that they ran in Oregon. That doesn't mean that that's the player he's going to be in the NFL. But what I would love to see from him is I would like to see more of the deep ball from him and just truly see how accurate that deep ball is from Bo Nix and how strong his arm truly is. Now, in the rare instances where he did throw deep, he did do a pretty good job of it. The balls were placed in catchable areas. He did show that he has a strong enough arm to do it and get the job done. But that's the only downside I really see with him is, can he take it to that next level and consistently throw the ball over 20 years? Because last thing that the Raiders want, if we ended up with a Bo Nix, is another Jimmy Garoppolo who cannot throw the ball over 20 yards, despite the fact that he was taking performance-enhancing drugs and still couldn't throw the ball over 20 yards or refused to. Now, who's next on the board after Bo Nix? And like I said, this one was a bit of a toss-up, but I'm going to go J.J. McCarthy right after Bo Nix. I think J.J. McCarthy, because of the national championship, I think because of Jim Harbaugh big-upping him, saying he's a generational player, I think he's going to go before Bo Nix. Now, with that being said, he also has half of the throws pretty much as Bo Nix, and he's second to Bo Nix in accuracy on almost every single chart. Therefore, I'm a little bit suspect on whether J.J. McCarthy is going to be able to take it to that next level in the NFL. Now, we've seen quarterbacks come into the NFL who were super successful in high school and in college, but then get to the NFL and they just become a complete and utter disaster. J.J. McCarthy could be that guy. With him, you just don't have enough stats or game footage or history to know, can this guy take over a game and win it for you? I think he has the pedigree to do it. I think he has come from an excellent organization under Jim Harbaugh of a winning culture. So I believe that he's going to be a fierce competitor, and I believe he has the potential to do it. But I'm going to put him down below Bo Nix simply because I just don't have enough info on him to raise him any higher. Now, my outlier. This one came down to a couple of different guys, Joe Milton III or Spencer Rattler. I'm going to go with Spencer Rattler over Joe Milton. Joe Milton has that possibility of being a great athlete in the NFL. He definitely has the strongest arm in college this year. But I think higher upside is a guy named Spencer Rattler. Now, Spencer Rattler also has some downsides to him. One of them is his height. He's only 6 feet tall. That doesn't necessarily mean he cannot excel in the NFL. It just simply means that he's short. So he's going to have to use his athleticism and maneuver in the pocket to where he can actually see over his linemen and get the ball out. With that being said, I think Spencer Rattler, who also started out in Oklahoma and then transferred over to South Carolina, who played very well in the Senior Bowl and raised up his stock, and we'll see how he does in the Combine. But he has great arm talent. He can definitely throw thread the needle, right? And then he has athleticism. He's a dual threat quarterback. He has several touchdowns on the ground as well as through the air. And, after a big win, he's in the locker room smoking a ciggy. So I think he'd fit right in with the Raiders locker room, right? So with that, I'm going to go with my last pick at quarterback position. The outlier is going to be a Spencer Rattler. He's probably going to be available in the 3rd round. I don't think he'll make it all the way to the 4th round. I think somebody's going to take a chance on him, bring him in. If you bring in a Spencer Rattler, he's probably not going to be your starter year one. He's going to have to sit back, and you're going to have to see what you got with him. He's going to probably be put in that role of a Jordan Love type situation where you want to develop him. You picked him up in the 3rd round. Let's see what you got with him over a couple of years. If he really starts to show some super big promise, maybe you got a veteran in there like a Kirk Cousins, and you got Rattler and AOC battling for that QB2 position, and see who wins. I think at that point, after your veteran's going to go ahead and retire, if you end up with an older guy, then this would be a great spot for Spencer Rattler to really come in and win QB1 with the silver and black. Now, with all of that said, guys, go ahead and drop some comments on this video. Continue to like it and make sure that you subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about my picks. Am I completely off my rocker, or do you agree with me 100%? Let me just jump into some of these. comments really quick before we wrap up the show. Just show out some love to my guys. My boy Hot Beavers is in the house. Raider Ryan in the house. We got Tech in the house. We got Jeffrey in the house. A whole bunch of members of the Raider D family are in here this morning sharing their Saturday with me. So salute to all of you. And again, make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so that you're not missing any of these lives. I kind of right now, I'm just going random different times as my schedule predicts, but it is pretty much every single day. So you're not going to want to miss out. Make sure you hit that bell notification and consider becoming a member of the Raider D family. It's very affordable, once a month, $2.99 a month at the silver package, or you could go all the way up to $29.99 a month and get that Raider Nation package as well. Check out the perks in there. And yeah, so let's see. Hot Beaver says, agree on Penix, except Penix will fall. Trade back into round 1 to grab him. The league is going to put other guys above him. I think that's a very likely scenario, Hot Beavers, 100%. I think you're on something there with that. In fact, I think if we end up staying at pick number 13, I would like to see us trade back to pick 18 or 19 and then take the best player off the board, because we have the ability then to possibly pick up another second round, because I think the second round is full of treasures, right? From offensive linemen to running backs to wide receivers. I think trading back, grabbing somebody at 18, whether it's Fashanu or JC Latham or Michael Penix, would be a smart move if we can get a second round pick for trading back that far. And then in that second pick in round 2, we'll have a couple of second round picks, and we can grab potentially a Brendan Rice, potentially a beast of a running back to replace Josh Jacobs if he's not coming back, or to add in, a guy like BB, who is a guard, who's probably the best guard in the draft, right? We can really address a lot of issues. And then, if we got a Justin Fields in the silver and black now, we made a trade for him. I just think that would really help out the Raiders in the long term. And then, so yeah, let's say, Raider Ryan, brother, salute, just hanging out with the nation on a Saturday morning, going through my offensive draft picks for the needs that the Raiders have. It's been a great one, fun one. Tomorrow we're going to be doing defense. So make sure that you guys are ready for that. Hit those bell notifications so you don't miss it live. But hey, if you did miss it live, just go back and watch the thing from the beginning. And I will see all of you guys in the next video, in the next podcast. Much love to the Raider Nation. And let's go ahead and end this out proper with a nice, loud Raiders. Just win